JJ Redick. Here are two very common traits, in highly successful people. High IQ, highly competitive. Not a lot of failures. Smart people who are very driven and competitive succeed. Coach K at Duke has had a lot of smart people and a lot of competitive people come through that program for all those years. And at 77 years old today, he acknowledges JJ was as smart as any player he's ever had and as competitive as any player he's had. Now, the only thing that gets in the way of really smart, competitive people, men or women, the only trait that can get in the way of that is stubborn. And you see that just puncture really smart, competitive people. I don't know JJ well enough to know, is he stubborn? But in the NBA, you have to be adaptable. It's a long, long season. There's injuries. There's egos. You got to be able to pivot. Keep players happy. But I'll be honest about this. He'll be a quick learner. I don't really worry about JJ Redick. I worry about the Lakers' impatience and competency. Just think about this. The two best teams in the league, in my opinion, they're favored next year are the Celtics and Denver. Denver landed the Joker, the best player in the world. Surrounded him with good players. And it still took an excellent coach, Mike Malone. What was it, 7 years to win a title? With the best player in his prime? Didn't have to trade for him and give up draft capital. They got him in the second round. Took him 7 years with a Joker. Best player in the world in his prime. The Celtics landed two excellent players. Maybe not as good as Joker, but Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Excellent players. They had excellent coach, Brad Stevens, who's now an excellent GM, Brad Stevens. Took them 7-8 years. They had to add pieces. So whether you land the best player in the world or two other elite players, we've had 6 champions in 6 years. The talent is all spread out. Gone are the Shaq Kobe years, the Magic Kareem Worthy years. It's not like that anymore. Hard to get a third star. Now, the good news for the Lakers, they have 3 nice pieces. Anthony Davis is a top 12 player. Defensively, he's a gem. LeBron's still very, very, very good and a playmaker. He makes people around him better. And Austin Reeves is a solid playmaker. If I had to move him, I would, but he's a solid playmaker. They could also trade D'Angelo Russell if he opts in, or if he opts out, they got $18 million to play with. So there are far worse situations in the NBA to inherit than what JJ Redick is. But there's a lot of things to consider here. They don't have any shooters. JJ's a shooter. He wants a roster of shooters. That's his game. The other thing, like the Yankees or the Dallas Cowboys, Lakers are a big brand in a big city, and the expectations are always a little unrealistic. And here's the other thing. Anthony Davis played 76 games. LeBron played 71. They're not going to play that many games next year. That's the healthiest AD and LeBron have been in years. And that got him a play-in game and getting almost swept by Denver. They played Denver well, but that's what AD playing every night got you. That's what LeBron playing virtually every night got you. I'd bet my 401k that AD's not playing 76 games as a Laker next year. Okay? So that's stuff to think about. So the Lakers, to me, need a lot of patience here. This is not a championship roster. I'm going to propose a massive deal after the break, something to consider. But I don't worry about JJ Redick. Mike Krzyzewski's like, that's the smartest players ever had. And he had like Quinn Snyder and other guys, a lot of smart guys. Trajan Langdon was a smart guy. I mean, Shane Battier, it's like Duke. It's like smartest guys in the world, right? Like some of the smartest basketball players ever, Dukies. And Coach K is like, yeah, that's the smartest player I ever had. That's a competitive player I've ever had. So, he'll be fine. I wish they would have made the move earlier so he could build a better staff, but you cross your fingers on that. There's this other issue to consider. Dan Wojcicki, LA Times. Remember, stuff gets out when somebody wants it out. According to his story, Redick's ascent as a favorite in the coaching search came without LeBron James urging. They wanted to make sure that got out. In fact, they were more concerned about how AD felt about the move, according to this story, who doesn't co-host a podcast with JJ Redick. So you got to balance that, baby. That's something. That is something. But again, in review, the JJ Redick piece, smart, competitive. As long as he's not stubborn, he'll be fine. Lakers, competency, patience, I haven't seen it in a decade. That's my concern. So I'm going to throw this out there. I am not proposing this. This is not my big trade proposal, but it's something that needs to be addressed. Trae Young, and I've said before, I would have no problems. Trae Young with LeBron James, space the floor with LeBron and AD, I'm for it. Trae Young sent out a tweet, an hourglass, a cryptic post after the JJ Redick news. So how do the Lakers get a Trae Young? Well, they could move D'Lo. They could move some bench guys, James Vanderbilt. They could give up 3 first-round picks. Probably have to give up Austin Reeves. I'd be here for it. I know. I'd be here for it for Trae Young. I do think Trae Young would work here. It feels like something AD would like because Trae Young would space the floor. It'd be harder to collapse. It's very easy now to collapse on Anthony Davis because the Lakers don't have anybody that can shoot a 3. And Trae Young's an elite 3-ball, a true point guard. At least in 2024, he's a point guard. And he's a playmaker. So LeBron wouldn't have to be the overwhelming playmaker every time down the floor. Trae Young could do some of that. LeBron could play off the ball occasionally, conserve some energy. You couldn't just collapse on Anthony Davis, so he would space the floor. So it's the sort of thing the Lakers do. Big, splashy trades, free agent signings, not working through the draft. They're not the Royals or the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's not what they do. They're not even OKC, a well-run team that loves to draft and develop. But I don't know if OKC has the guts to pull off a big trade. Sam Presti likes to draft and develop and accumulate picks, and that's fine. So does Boston, but Boston had the guts to go out and get Porzingis and Drew Holiday, and they're champs. But I do think this works. He's a floor spacer. He is what they are not. In his prime, really quick, playmaker, and can shoot threes. I mean, this team is the Celtics, number 1 in the NBA shooting threes. Lakers 28th. I mean, he is exactly what the doctor ordered. Quick, twitchy, prime, threes, playmaker. And it should be noted, what was JJ Redick? He was a guard that shot threes. How do we know if JJ Redick can coach bigs? He never was a big. He's never coached bigs. But I know JJ Redick. If you listen to JJ Redick, this is a guy JJ Redick could work with. JJ Redick was a playmaker. He was a moving around the floor guy. He was a shooting threes guy. My guess is quarterbacks, no quarterbacks. Playmakers and shooters, no playmakers and shooters. He'd be good with Trae Young. So I wouldn't propose this, but I'd be okay with it. I think there's a better deal out there. But I do think another thing to consider, if you made the Trae Young deal, and I was at an event in the last 6-7 months where Trae Young was there and LeBron made a point of showing up. Just saying. I was at the event. LeBron didn't have to come. Trae Young was there, and LeBron made sure he got to the event. Just to shake hands, say hi. Trae Young would also create some momentum and inertia. Because when a new coach takes over, JJ Redick with no experience, if you gave him the same roster, people would be picking him apart. Trae Young would take a lot of the attention away from us micro-inspecting JJ Redick. We'd have all the eyes on Trae Young, LeBron, and AD. We wouldn't worry as much about coaching. Because the Lakers didn't have any 3-ball shooters in a 3-ball league, all we did is talk about Darvin Ham's rotations. You get Trae Young in, we're going to be talking about Trae Young, not the coach. So I think the Trae Young, him putting out an hourglass, is saying, it's a matter of time. I would be on board with that. Now, J-Mac is not a Trae Young fan, and he's a pretty shaky defensive player. But it should be noted, so is Luka, and y'all love Luka. There's a lot of guys in this league who are offensive players who are not great defensive players. Trae Young has gotten better as a defensive player, but he is a playmaker. He is a shooter. He's in his prime. And I'll tell you, He was in the biggest city in the South. He is a big city player. When he broke into this league, where did he play best? New York City. Trae Young is not going to wither under the lights. He's a big city player. Atlanta's the big city in the South. Loved playing in New York. He'd fit in Los Angeles. He would not shrink. So if that's the move, and Trae Young's giving you a cryptic tweet, if that's the move, I think there's advantages to it. We pay a lot more attention to him than the rookie head coach.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.